This is my fourth video of doing updates to my Trek Hardtail, also known as Beatrix the Black Mamba. In the first video, I updated the wheels and went tubeless. In part 2, I converted the drivetrain to a 1x9. After the third video was completed, the bike had a new air fork with an extra 20 millimeters of travel, a shorter stem, and wider handlebars. The only two parts left on the bike that are original is the headset and seat post. In this video, I'll install the new headset and replace the stem and handlebars to return her to a more cross-country bike. I will also install a new suspension dropper post to make her a little bit more comfortable while climbing rocky terrain. Heck, with a dropper post, she may be considered a down-country bike. To change out the headset, I first need to remove the fork. To remove the fork, I need to detach the front brake. I use a zip tie to keep the brake mounting bracket attached to the brake. Next, remove the grips and the front brake lever. Loosen the stem nuts that attach to the steerer and then remove the headset top cap. Then the fork should pop out pretty easily. As you can see, the original headset uses caged ball bearings. Finally, I need to remove the headset cups using my trusty remover tool and clean up the frame. My plan is to switch out the headset with this FSA Orbit Z internal headset. It uses sealed bearings and costs about $40. I use the FSA Easy Headset website to determine which headset to order. You basically pop in the inner and outer diameters for both the top and the bottom, and it will provide a nice list of headsets that should fit your frame. To install, the first step is to remove the old crown race from the fork. There are tools to remove this part, but I just use an old flathead screwdriver. There are also tools to set the new crown race, but we'll use my makeshift 1 1/4 PVC pipe with split sides. Instead of a normal headset cap, we are going to use the Granite Stash RCX multi-tool, which is stored in the steerer tube. It comes with a compression nut, but I discovered from my full suspension bike that it loosens and is not reliable. Instead, I will use a standard star nut. Since I don't have a star nut setter tool, I will again use a DIY solution. In this case, it is a 7/16 inch socket with the star nut bolted onto the end. I will use my 1/4 inch socket extension and 10 millimeter hex key on the other side. Use some electrical tape to mark the depth and hammer away. The next step is to grease the bearing cups and use a bearing cup installer tool. I'm using the Park Tool HHP3 bearing cup press. I installed the top and bottom cups separately and did my best to keep them aligned. The tool itself works for press fit bottom brackets as well. It isn't as nice as the professional versions, but for home use it works great. Now that the cups are installed, add some grease and prepare all the headset parts to be put together. Many times I have left a part out of reach and had to start the process over. As for my new stem, I decided to go longer. When I upgraded my older stem, my intent was to make the bike more trail-oriented. However, it was too short for the medium frame, and I really needed a longer reach. This stem is the Race Face Evolve, and it is 90 millimeters in length. Pop in the bearings and make sure you install them correctly. The first time I put these together, I installed the bottom bearing upside down. Everything worked, but once I put the wheel back on and test rode it, I had a lot of trouble steering the bike. I thought the bottom bearing didn't look right when I installed it, so I took it apart and reinstalled everything, this time with the bearing facing the right direction. To make the headset fit perfectly, I had to pick up some new headset spacers with multiple heights. Luckily, Wolf Tooth Components had a nice variable set, and after attempting a few different combinations, I found one that worked great. Next, I installed the multi-tool sleeve with a steerer bolt. Tighten up the stem bolts, but not all the way so you can adjust it later with the wheel back on. Slap on the handlebar, and we are ready to install the dropper post. My first step in installing a dropper post is to attach the remote lever to the handlebars. This is PNW's the Loam lever. It comes in an assortment of colors and I picked safety orange. The body is in black, but you can get it in gray as well. I have the same lever on my full suspension bike and I like its simplicity, plus it looks great. You have a couple of options for the position, and a single bolt attaches the lever and clamp onto the handlebar. This is PNW's Coast suspension dropper post. I thought it would be fun to give this a try on the hardtail, and it's one of the only droppers that I can find that fits my 27.2mm seat post diameter. It also comes with an external cable routing option, which works perfect for my bike since I no longer run a front derailleur. This is a standard derailleur cable that attaches to the post actuator rod. Luckily I had some extra housing and I only needed a couple of short pieces. The first goes from the dropper post to the front derailleur mount on the bottom of the top tube. Snap on the desk cover and lead the housing into the bottom of the external cable port. Run the cable under the top tube to the front mount and then through the second piece of cable housing. The cable then goes into the barrel adjuster, then under the cable fixing bolt and washer. Just be sure to pull the cable taut, then tighten the fixing bolt. Next, install the saddle onto the post. Set the post to the right position and tighten the seat post clamp. Since I no longer need a quick release seat post clamp, I picked up this orange one from Wolftooth Components. Let's talk about the handlebar. I had this carbon race face next handlebar on my full squishy and decided it would work better on a more cross-country oriented bike. It was in blue, so I decided to cover the blue with some orange vinyl decals. It looked silly, so I ended up removing the decals and decided to embrace the blue. I basically had to reinstall everything onto the handlebar, including the dropper remote, but it looks much better now. To complete the cockpit, I switched out my orange ergon grips with this pair of Loam grips from PNW. I decided to go with black, but they do come in a multitude of colors. Since I wear gloves, I noticed the lighter colored grips tend to get easily marked up, so the dark grips should look better longer. They are also a pretty good deal at only $20. Since I started to add blue elements to the bike, I decided to switch out the orange pedals with an extra pair of blue Chesters from Raceface I had lying around in my spare parts bin. Now that everything is installed, I just need to adjust the steerer tube and stem, then properly torque down the bolts. I also should crimp this cable end to prevent fraying. Looks like I'm just about finished. I added some blue granite juicy nipple valve caps. I like these because they can be used to unscrew the valve stem when I need to add tire sealant. Next, I added back my quad lock mount onto the stem. I also have an extra tie down for a spare tube in these tire levers. I had used the Raceface stash tool before, but the elastic didn't last long in the desert. This 1UP Components gear strap should work much better. To test out the bike, let's go ride a nice cross-country trail here at McDowell Mountain Regional Park. The new stem and handlebars feel much better than the trail-oriented Spank setup. My bike is a 17.5-inch medium and the old stem shortened the reach and I was just too upright. Technically I should be on a larger bike, but Trek didn't offer an 18.5 back in the day. I like the grips, they are soft and pretty spongy. No problems with the headset, steering is nice and smooth. After a few rides, I think I have the seat post dialed in. I had to increase the PSI in the suspension to a max 300. I was bottoming out and I also prefer it to be a little stiffer. The suspension post is nice when climbing rocky terrain. It is not a substitute for full suspension, but it definitely makes it a more comfortable ride. It is useless on the downhill, but at least now I have an option to lower the post for steeper terrain. I like how everything came together with the orange and blue colors. They are complementary and they also match our YouTube channel colors. Now that everything on the bike has been updated, I'm not sure what to do next. I'm sure I'll find something wrong in the near future, but until then, keep pedaling.